Welcome to the Light Gate. We're so happy to see everyone tonight, and it's going to be a really great show. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and many other different platforms. We're so glad you're here. Take it, Preston.
Thanks, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I am your host, Preston Dennett, author, and I guess I'll call myself an experiencer because I am. And with me tonight is, of course, my lovely co-host, Dolly Saffron, a lifelong experiencer and the subject of my book, Symmetry. And we are actually at show number 26. Super excited. We have some amazing guests tonight, but before I get to them, I just want to say hi to all you guys here, just as a thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Hi, Tools. Hello, Michael. Awesome to see you here. Hi, Red Peanut. I love to see all these familiar names. Scuba Maru. Thanks so much for joining us. Oh, very kind of you, Mills Bub. I really, really appreciate your kind words. Thank you so much. Hi, Gray Troll. Always awesome to see you here. Hey, Dana Matthews. You guys, we have a really cool show tonight. I know last week we had a really cool guest who everyone really loved, and I think we're going to have some equally good amount of fun tonight. So hi, Louise. And it's Alicia. Got a hot cup of tea. I already had my tea, so I am good. Hi, Janice. Lunar Dove, nice to see you. Jenny Feniello, good evening from Florida. Awesome. And namaste. Thank you so much for the super chat. Truly appreciated. You as well, Terry D. Is so very, very generous of both of you. Really appreciate that. Hello, Becky. Lots of very familiar names here. Hi, Ruth Kleiber. So excited to see you here. Okay, I could say hi to you guys all day long, but I got in trouble for doing that once, so I am not going to go on much longer, but I can't help it. I love saying hi. Hello, Scarlet Fire. It's just fun. This is, it's nice to see all our friends here. But yeah, we do have an amazing show tonight. Our guests are what I call UFO paranormal power couple, Rob and Trish MacGregor. Dolly and I have talked to them, met them face to face. We were both guests at some point on their own podcast, The Mystical Underground. And they are very, very accomplished researchers, authors, and podcasters. And in fact, Rob MacGregor is the author of 19 novels, count that, 14 nonfiction books, and has actually teamed up with some big names like George Lucas and Peter Benchley. He writes both adult and young adult mysteries, adventure, and science fiction and fantasy, probably my favorite genre in terms of fiction. And he is an award-winning author. He won the Edgar Allan Poe Award for mystery writing. That's a reputable award. For his work, The Prophecy Rock, which is the first of 4 novels featuring Will Lansa, whose life is divided between the Hopi Reservation, where his father is chief of police, and Aspen, Colorado, where his mother is heir to a silver fortune. So yeah, he's an amazing novelist and is perhaps best known for, get this, 7 Indiana Jones novels he wrote for Lucasfilms and Bantam Books, one of which actually spent several weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. That is a huge accomplishment. But of course, also he writes a lot of nonfiction as well, has written several self-help books on dreams and synchronicity and yoga and psychic development. Also, the subjects that we like to explore, mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle in his book, The Fog, And of course, Aliens in the Backyard, which is right here, as you can see. Super cool book. It's all about UFO encounters, abductions, and synchronicity. It's one of 3 books, actually, on synchronicity, authored with our second guest, his wife, Trish MacGregor. So Rob does teach yoga and meditation. And Trish herself is also incredibly accomplished. She's written dozens of nonfiction books on a huge variety of topics that are really cool, including astrology, the tarot, dreams, synchronicity. She actually started out as a freelance magazine writer and eventually became a regular contributor to, get this, Omni Magazine's antimatter section. I read that all the time. Back when it was really hard to find UFO information, I could always count on Omni. So yeah, that covered all aspects of the paranormal as well as UFOs. And through those assignments, she got to meet abductee Betty Hill. I can't wait to hear about that, Trish. Definitely going to ask you about that. Also, UFO researcher Bud Hopkins and many others. So yeah, fiction and nonfiction books. The most recent nonfiction books are Beyond Strange and Sensing the Future. And of course, I hope we get to talk about this amazing book, which is Aliens in the Backyard, UFO Encounters, Abductions, and Synchronicity. Of course, Trish is the author of, quote, the biggest horoscope book ever. And Rob wrote The Jewel in the Lotus, Meditation for Busy Minds. They've co-written a lot of books like Power Tarot, Phyllis Vega. Rob co-authored Beyond the Bermuda Triangle with Bruce Vernon. They live in South Florida with 3 cats and a noble golden retriever. We love animals. And her daughter Megan is also an aspiring writer and artist. So we are super, super excited to be joined by these 2 wonderful guests who we love so much.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good seeing you again.
Almost say that you bet you want a UFO.
I will.
About a UFO.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit. Yeah, we're so excited. We love you guys so much. It was such a joy to do your show, Mystical Underground. And going through your bio, I'm like, wow, I had no idea you were that accomplished. Rob, New York Times best-selling author. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
In fact, here, I'm just going to do this. I hope it doesn't embarrass you, but I can't help it because it's just so cool. Show you some of the books you guys have. Sensing the Future, The Shift. Here's some of the Indiana Jones novels. 7 Secrets of Synchronicity. Of course, Aliens in the Backyard. There are a lot, you guys. I thought I wrote a lot of books. Crystal Skull. I got a picture of you guys with this crystal skull. I definitely want to touch on that. But yeah, just book after book after book after book. Dun, 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 dun. Can't keep up with that.
We write them about that fast.
So yeah, I mean, I am not even sure where to start. So I'll just start how I always like to start the show, is when you guys were little kids. And how did this subject of UFOs and the paranormal and science fiction and these somewhat, quote, fringe subjects, not fringe now, but
Right.
Back in the day, certainly. How did you get involved in this subject?
Yeah. Oh, for me, my parents were always open to the strange and mysterious. They would be they were interested in talking about ghosts and spirits and the afterlife. And my first UFO related experience happened when I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was out we lived in a dead end, and I walked out into the street where the roads cross, and usually my parents would call me in when it got dark or when it got dusk, and the kids were usually out and playing, but this night there was nobody else out there, and my parents didn't call me either. And so I was standing out there, and I looked up, and I see all these lights, green and blue and yellow. They're just zigzagging all around the sky. And that's the last thing I remember. Then I went in the house, and I told my parents what I had seen. And the next day, my father said, yeah, he heard on the radio that other people had also experienced that and seen those lights in the sky. So,
wow. What city was that in?
that was in suburban Minneapolis.
Oh,
Amazing.
okay.
That sounds like a genuine display. The UFOs show themselves on purpose. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing, I've come to believe that when someone has a sighting like that, they're doing it intentionally and they know who's looking at them. So
Yeah.
that was a little gift to you, I'm guessing, from them.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And the circumstances were odd too, because I had never stood out there in the dark by myself and without my parents calling me in. So, and then that happened. So that was
Very
interesting.
What about you, Trish?
I was 16. I was boarding school because my parents were living in Venezuela, and the company paid for boarding school. So one night we were in. It was after lights, and a bunch of us were in this girl's room downstairs. And I was looking out the window, and I saw this light doing this very weird things. I said, "Hey, guys, look at this thing. What is this?" I said, "I think it's a UFO," and everybody started laughing. But they admitted that it could not be an airplane, at least not any airplane ever, because of the maneuvers it was making. So finally, everybody was at the window. We were all trying to follow this light, and it just took off. That was the first.
How long did you watch it?
Probably about 10 minutes. I mean, it definitely performed for us. It wasn't, it could have taken off at any point, but I think it knew it had an audience.
Wow. That's very cool.
That was the first time.
Was it way high up in the stratosphere, or was it down lower in the atmosphere?
So I say it was maybe 2,500 feet. So it was
Not
pretty
bad.
low.
Okay.
We were
Wow.
on the bottom of a 2-story house. So
Wow.
So is that what got you interested in this subject?
no, actually I was interested before that, but
Really?
this kind of confirmed it. Yeah, no, I've been interested in this stuff since I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Since I learned
That's curious.
And when Trish and I met, we were both in life situations where we were surrounded by people who had no interest in UFOs or the paranormal, and so we were reading a lot of books, but had nobody to talk to. And then I was working as a newspaper reporter in South Florida, and I ended up interviewing Trish for an article about the Marielito refugees from Cuba, who she was teaching English to. And afterwards, we just started talking, found out we had a lot in common. We had both read all these Jane Roberts books, and we knew nobody else that had read those books or were interested in it. So we hit it off.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, I've read all the Jane Roberts books. All
All right.
of them.
Right, cool.
I'm a huge fan of Seth.
And then we also had a very, very unusual. What, Trish?
what did you tell about the
Yeah,
Water.
one of our early experiences. So we didn't know anyone who had this interest, so we were just looking for ways of experiencing more. So I said, why don't we go buy a Ouija board and see what happens? And
Wow.
a lot of people
Oh my God.
are really afraid of Ouija boards and the evil and all that. But we were just curious to see what would happen, and we knew that there's a lot of tricksters that come through. And at first, it barely moved.
Roberts?
The planchette barely moved, and then it started moving. and it started spelling things, and it gave a name, and it said it was communicating with us from a craft up above, somewhere above in the atmosphere. And I was, like I said, I was working as a newspaper reporter then, and so I was very interested in, finding out some facts about it. Okay, if you're in a craft up there, give us some evidence, show us. And it responded and said, go to the airport tonight, late tonight, and watch the sky. So
we were living in Fort Lauderdale, so it was Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. So we were near the Fort Lauderdale airport.
What year was this?
1981.
81.
Oh, no. 81, yeah.
81, right.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had just met weeks before that. And so we did. We went, at that time, the Fort Lauderdale airport is a lot smaller than it is now. I mean, you could actually drive up and park and get out of your
the airport
car
and watch stuff fly.
But and you could also just drive up to the fence and park there and watch airplanes come in right over.
That's what I meant.
Land, which is really cool.
Yeah, Miami International was the same way back when. Yeah.
So that's what we did. We just drove out by the fence and we're just watching. And we spent more than an hour, and it was like between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and we didn't see anything. And so we thought a trickster, a Ouija trickster. And so we went back home. I was living in Hollywood, Florida, and Trish was living in Fort Lauderdale. And the next morning I had to be at the office at 8 o'clock, and I got assigned to a school board meeting, and I had to call in my report by, I think, 9:30 or something on some issue. Called it in. Then the editor said, "Okay, come into the office and do a longer follow-up story. You got a 10:30 deadline for that one." So I had to rush in and do that. And at that time, people smoked a lot in newspaper offices. It was allowed, and the woman next to me always had a cigarette lit, and she was puffing away and working on deadline, and I was working on deadline, and we both finished about the same time. And I looked over and I said, "What were you working on?" And she said, "A UFO story. There was a UFO sighted by the cops last night over Perry Airport." I said, "Perry Airport," which was located in Hollywood, about 10 miles from where we were in Fort Lauderdale, and very close to where I work, actually. And so that night, Trish and I went out again to Perry Airport, and it's closed at night. There's nothing going on, and it was just very dark. And we just sat there and watched for a while and said, I guess nothing's going to happen. But then as we're driving away, I turn on the radio, and I'm just spinning through the stations, and I hear something a little unusual. It was an old style radio drama, which you don't hear anymore. Before television, there were a lot of dramas on the radio. And so I started listening, and what do you know? One of the characters is an alien. And Trish is driving behind me, and this is long before cell phones, so I'm trying to think. There's an alien on the radio. and so this is how the UFO merge with the paranormal, with how it all fits together. It's not just one, nuts and bolts thing, visitors from another planet. It's something much larger than that.
I'm curious about
as you know.
Yeah.
Did this up the gain on you seeing UFOs after this? In other words, as the years have progressed, have you seen more and more UFOs in your lifetime? Do you feel like that you're known now?
Well, yeah, we in the last. You go ahead, Trish.
Barnes and Noble. And
go ahead.
Picked up a UFO book. I said, "Hey, Rob, here's a UFO book we don't have." So we marched up to the cash register, buy it, walk outside, and there's a strange light in the sky, just kind of like what happened to me in boarding school, but much lower. And we're both standing there watching it.
Yeah.
And people walking past us, and nobody's looking up.
Yeah,
And
we're standing there for about 10 minutes looking up, and it's low, and it's just a bright light, and you can't see what it is, but because it's all light. And so finally Trish said, "Oh, I want to go over to Walgreens," which was, about a quarter mile away. So we get in the car, drive over to Walgreens. She goes in, and I'm sitting in the Walgreens parking lot, and I see it again. It's moved across Forest Hill Boulevard and over a golf course, and it's low, and it's in about the only spot where I could possibly see it. So I'm sitting in the car still watching it.
Yeah. Now, okay, so I'm connecting dots here. Okay. What was your interest in developing psychic ability around that time, and did it escalate for you, researching it as well as trying to use your ability?
Well, it did for me.
You mean from that point on? Well, we've been involved with the subject, and I've had lots of paranormal experiences over the years. So I can't say that particular anything happened that I recall after that, because we have synchronicities virtually every day. I hear from people that say, I've had 2 synchronicities in my life, and I'm thinking, well, I've had 2 today.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a big part of this field. I've certainly come to realize that. But just backtracking to the using the Ouija board and getting that message, and then it's over another airport nearby. That's kind of a sense of humor these ETs sometimes have.
Right.
I would leave town, and there would be a sighting over my hometown. It happened over and over again. And I just want to add that I once did a YouTube video on, can you contact UFOs through a Ouija board?
Oh, really?
And I got a lot of feedback from that one, both good and bad.
Yeah, right.
The Ouija board is controversial, but there was this case in Utah where these kids were using a Ouija board and had the same message. And they said, we'll show up over the hospital at this date, go outside. And it was there. And the whole town saw it. This was in Roosevelt, Utah. Frank Salisbury was the researcher. He wrote the Utah UFO display. And after hearing about that case, I dug in and I found a good 20 cases like that.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Well, the whole point of the Ouija board is that you're opening yourself up psychically anyway.
Right.
You're giving permission to receive anything. And ET will take those opportunities immediately, especially if they're already watching you or following you. They'll jump in if they see you doing that. So, yeah.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
I told you about the 3 aliens that appeared on when we had you on our podcast. I asked you, what were they? That I had gone to this Eric Pearl workshop where he was his healing techniques on showing us how to do it. We paired up with a stranger, and while this woman was doing the hand movements over my body, I felt the top of my head blow off, and the beam of light shot up to the ceiling, and at the very top, I could see these 3 aliens peering down at me. And it's not like they weren't hostile or anything. They were curious.
No. We're all in contact with one another anyway. I mean, most people don't realize how connected we all are psychically anyway. We hear each other, we feel each other. That's what empathy is. Empathy is not mystical. It's an actual ability that you have in your psychic abilities, and it's in your toolbox. And so ET is aware of us constantly. There's nowhere in the universe that you can't make point contact with another entity if you're fully psychic and operating. And they can watch you or talk to you at any time, especially if they're interested in you. And they'll stay in contact with you, or they'll listen for you and watch you, remote view you. I mean, that's their way. And so for you to use the Ouija board, they were on opportunity, here it is. And you did exactly what they were hoping you'd do. You actually went out and showed them that you received the message. You confirmed it to them, that they're not hearing wrong. They heard you rightly. Okay. And then they made points of contact with you, along the way. So it's very cool.
Our mistake was not asking which airport.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. We tend to do that too. We hear in our head what we want to think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. We regularly have different types of experiences. I had one just last Thursday. Should I go into that one, Trish? It's related to a dog. So we were taking care of this. We were taking care of this dog for a few days. It's an American bulldog, which has real short hair, very friendly girl. But she has this collar on, and the owner says this collar is perfect for her. But every time we take care of this dog, Trish takes the collar off because she thinks it's too tight. Okay. And so this was last Thursday. It was about 7:15, and I knew the owner was back in town, and he was picking up the dog at 8:00. So I see the dog starts following me around, and I pet it, and no collar. And so I started looking around. I look all over the place for the collar.
I can't find it.
Yeah, so I went and woke Trish up, and she said, "Look on the counter, blah blah blah, and the kitchen table." And so I looked in these two places. It wasn't there. I keep looking. I woke her up, and I knew the guy's going to be coming anytime, and so I woke her up again, and she said, "Keep looking. It's right out there." And so I did it again. I finally, I went back a third time, but Trish was sleeping, and I just let her sleep. And so I came back out, and I was thinking, well, I'll just have to tell Lloyd that we can't find Abby's collar. But I look at Abby. Abby's got the collar on. Now, where did that collar come from? And the collar was upside down, which is odd. It was like it was, clipped together. What? And it should be in the tag. It was on top, And,
it's very short.
I have times when I can't remember names, but I have never not remembered finding a collar, putting it on the dog, and then completely forgetting it. No, that did not happen. It's just a very strange thing. I tried to think of the different possibilities. Maybe she always had that collar on and I just could not see it. But yet I was thinking, man, how could that be? Because I petted her and I would have felt if she had the collar on. I mean, it's very short hair. And I mean, just as a metaphysical thing, a psychic thing, that it was invisible for some reason, but I have no idea. And I thought, and I told Trish, well, maybe there was somebody in the house, and she said, yeah, they're stealing the collar, and then they decided to put on the dog and leave. That doesn't make any sense. So, and then there's the alien possibility that they were playing a trick with us, but who knows,
We live in 12 dimensions, okay? And we're all on top of one another. We're all together in the same space. Yeah. And a lot of people experience an entity who's dimensionally right next to you, who can see you, but you can't see them. Yeah. And they'll intervene in our lives from time to time if they understand that this is a big deal. This collar's got to be on the dog, and they may have just come on in and put it on as fast as they could and backed out. I've had weird things like that happen. I actually saw in my lifetime, I'm not joking around. I was looking for something. I couldn't find it, and I needed it. And I'm about to become hysterical, and I can hear my parents yelling for me, we got to go. And all of a sudden, I turned because I saw movement to my left, and I saw a hand going into nowhere where it dropped what I was looking for. And I freaked out. I was like, thank you, and don't do that again. And I grabbed it and I ran, and I realized that they do intervene. They do help.
Yeah. I've had a few weird experiences. I mean, once I was looking for a pen, just a simple pen. I was with my friend Roger. I'm like, where's the pen? It was right here. He's like, I don't have it. I'm like, you have it. You must have it because I don't have it. And then boom, it drops on the coffee table. And he accused me of throwing it, and I accused him. That's thought maybe it came. I don't know. It was just
Yeah.
weird. Weird stuff happens. I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
With the dog collar. I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, that's strange. Yeah, a friend of ours, Susan, she's told us a story when she was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. She was sitting in a chair, and she said she wanted to go over to the couch, and suddenly she just went right up in the air, across the room, and into the couch. And totally freaked her out.
Levitated?
Yeah, levitated across the room, and
Wow.
never happened to her again. But but she's had a lot of UFO experience. We've written about her stories.
See, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
How can we put in an order for levitation?
Yeah.
Actually, put it in an order for teleportation, so I don't have to drive 3 hours on a boring highway to Orlando to see our.
Right.
Well, I have had.
No, that's more like bilocation, not levitation. You wouldn't want to fly that way. Yeah, I think, but just disappearing from here and reappearing there, that would be nice.
I've interviewed contactees who've had that driving to work, and they arrived there far too early. I'm like, this is not possible. It takes an hour. They're like, no, you're a half hour early. How does that happen? It's not missing time.
In the Bermuda Triangle books, I've got stories like that. My co-author had an experience where he just shot from Bimini to Miami Beach instantaneously, and he did not fly. He did not fly that in the airplane, but it wasn't a normal flight because he would have been going something like 1,200 or 2,500 miles an hour, which the plane would have just disintegrated at that rate to complete the trip. But he and his father both had checked their watches at the beginning of the flight and the end of the flight, and they arrived with 9.5 or 10 gallons of too much fuel that they should have burned off. So.
Wow.
Also,
It's amazing.
Of what it usually.
So, what do you think is going on with the Bermuda Triangle?
Bruce likes to think it's related to a geo weather phenomena, and I think it's more UFO related, and he recognized it too because he's had so many UFO experiences. He was able to actually predict the appearance of UFOs at one point in his life. He told his wife, "Let's go to the beach. There's going to be UFOs," and there's like 5 or 6 of them moving right down the beach that he had seen, and basically he had come with binoculars and everything prepared to look for them, and there they were.
There you go. People always overlook the spiritual and paranormal aspects of UFOs, and that just goes to show it's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Well, when he was on UFO Hunters, Rob and I went to, where was that, Rob? Oh, just to a blank.
Andros Island?
Yeah, sort of the underwater area of 51.
Yeah.
And,
it's a secret Navy base, Autex. It's not so secret anymore, but it's called the Underwater Area 51. And we had go ahead,
something
Trish.
hit us. On our way back, something hit the airplane. And Bruce said, uh-oh. And I'm looking from the backseat. I thought, oh my God, we just lost, what was it, the compass or, the thing that you need for guidance on an airplane. And
the screen, the GPS screen just went blank. And as soon as we hit land in Florida, it came back on again. He had the plane checked out. There was nothing wrong with it at all. But during the flight from Andros Island, just because he knew how to get there, he didn't need all the navigation equipment to use, but it was just out. But we also had an interesting experience right while we were there that turned into quite a big synchronicity for us. Synchronicities don't always have to happen right instantaneously. They can be delayed. And what happened is that Bruce and I had been interviewed on the beach, and then the UFO hunters, there was 3 people that were in this. If you've seen that show, there's 3 guys. I can't think of their names right now. It's been a while. But so they wanted to go see if they could go onto the base and talk to the commander of the base. And the producers had called Autek and asking for if they could interview the commander. And not only did they didn't get a no, they just never got any response at all. So they decided, we all got in this Jeep with the camera and drove up to the entrance of the base. And so we're going to go. We stopped about 100 yards away, and we're going to walk up to the entrance. But as soon as we stopped, a couple cop cars came, and they did something unusual. The gate, instead of pointing at the gate, they pointed at each other, like blocking the gate, like you're not going to get in here. And then this black helicopter lifted from behind the wall, came up and hovered over us, making a lot of noise. And Bill, the guy, that lead guy, his name is Bill. I can't think of his last name. Bill says, I don't think we're welcome here, so let's turn around and leave. So that was it. He never got to chance to talk to the commander of the base. So anyhow, move ahead. Five months later, we're in Sarasota, Florida, helping our daughter move into college, to her dorm room. I think it was her 3rd year in college, and Trish and I decided to go downtown Sarasota to get some dinner. And so it was just the 2 of us, and we went to this we found a bar that had a lot of outside tables, and there was live music, and it was very crowded on this Friday night. But we saw one high top table that had 2 people on, but there were 2 empty chairs. So we asked, could we sit there? So we joined them, and when there was a break, the band took a break, and we started talking to them. And the guy sitting across from me is the commander of Autek. The guy, he is just retired. But he had been the commander when we were there. So we're telling him the whole story of being there, and trying to contact him and talking about the UFOs. And he looks at his girlfriend and he says, I need another drink. And, then the band started playing again. And so it was difficult to talk to him, but he wrote something down on a little scrap of paper. It was his email. And he said, contact me. And then they said, you want to go to another bar with us? And we should have done it, but we were tired and we decided to go home. So here I turned down the chance to spend more time with the commander of the underground or underwater.
Like the universe setting you up. It's amazing.
And this was a trickster synchronicity, because I never found that scrap of paper again. So I was never able to contact him.
Wow.
Wow. What year was that?
Well, that
What would that be?
2010. Okay. I have something to tell you. This is about that very base. I'm not kidding you. 4th of July, 2014. I'm working in the zoo with my cousin, okay? And we're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, no breaks, nothing. And she looked at me and she said, we got 2 USDA people here. Let's go. And I said, where are we going? She says, we're going to the beach. Okay, this is in Dade City, Florida. So we head south. We go to Pensacola Beach, not Pensacola, St. Petersburg Beach, all the way down to the end of St. Petersburg Beach, okay? And there's this hotel there. It's a big round one, and it twirls around in the top of it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, so we're there and we watch the fireworks and they're great. And I like to chase crabs at night, take a net and a flashlight and run around chasing land crabs. Okay. And so we're out there and we're chasing crabs. And all of a sudden she goes, what is that? And we're looking towards Sarasota. Okay. And I'm looking now, I'm thinking, what the heck am I looking at? Because I know a craft when I see them, there are 4 of them. And they're coming in from the west, heading east, Mach 5, okay? And low riding. We're talking 200 feet above the waterline. And I can still see them. They're that bright, big, bright orange, okay? And the next thing I know, she's doing this. She's going, and she's just like this. She can't move. And I'm like, what the hell? And I send out a message. Who are you? What are you doing? They came in, they landed, they jumped up, and they took off, and they went straight out. I'm like, well, they're not going to talk to me. And then 2 seconds later, they come back in, all 4 of them. And they're starting to land, but one of them broke off, came all the way up the beach line, over my head and her, and said, who are you? And I said, I'm Talata's girl. And he went, oh. And I said, what y'all doing? He said, privilege. And I was like, okay, just checking. And he said, see ya. He went back. And they made 8 runs in and out off that base. Okay.
Wow.
I was stupefied that I was actually watching this at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. So my cousin finally starts to come too. And she says, let's go to bed. I'm tired. I'm like, okay. So we walk back up the beach, way back up the beach, go to the hotel. We lay down, we get into bed. And 15 minutes later, she says, we have to go back to the zoo right now. I'm like, why? She says, I don't know. We just have to go back to the zoo right now. I have a bad feeling we have to leave here right now. I'm like, okay, fine. So we drove all the way back to Dade City. This is 4 o'clock in the morning now. We finally get back and we're laying down. And then I got a message. You needed to leave. We needed you out of there. And I'm like, why? And he said, big stuff. And that was all they told me. That commander knew about it. I guarantee it. He knew about it. You need to ask him about it. 4th of July, 2014. Ask him. Dead up. Ask him. I didn't
if you can find the email.
Find the email. Try to. I don't know. Do you know his name?
I can't. No, I don't remember his name at all either.
Well, there's a way to figure it out. I'll help you do that. I know how to do that. We'll find out who he is and we'll get his email. Okay. You got to ask him.
Did you say Dade City?
Yeah, Dade City, Florida.
That's
north of Tampa.
Pasco County.
Pasco County, yeah.
I lived there for a year. It was I had a job at a daily. They actually had a daily newspaper. And
that's right. I know. I read it a lot. What year was that?
That would have to be like 1972.
Oh my God. The zoo wasn't in existence then. Yeah. That is so amazing. Oh my God.
I rarely hear any mention of that little town, Dade City. But
one of the biggest synchronicities I ever experienced was with my family. We had gone on vacation up to Olympic National Forest in Washington and set up our campsite and heard voices at the neighboring campsite. It was our neighbors from Southern California, Topanga. Like, Sally, Sam, what are you doing here? By pure chance, we had set up camp in another state next to our neighbors. I mean, what are the chances?
Oh, really?
It doesn't ever happen. I know. Yeah.
It's weird stuff. It's like once I went to Magic Mountain, I ditched school to go to Magic Mountain. And who was in front of me in line? The girl I sit next to in class. She turns around. She's like, Preston, what are you doing? Are you ditching? I'm like, you're ditching.
Yeah.
It's just one of those weird synchronicities.
Yeah.
That makes you go,
Okay. So how many years total were y'all in Florida?
We're still here. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been here since that was my first job or second job out of college in Dade City. I worked in Bismarck, North Dakota for a year, got out of there after a year. And sunny Florida, I had a job. I thought Dade City was near Miami, it's in the middle.
No, Dade County is Miami. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it didn't have anything to do with Miami, but it was in the center of the state, not too far from Tampa, actually, in St. Pete.
Right. Cowtown.
Yeah.
Oranges too. Yeah.
And then I left after about a year and a half, went back to Minneapolis until about 1980, 81. And that's when I went back again to Hollywood, where I met Trish and worked in a newspaper, Hollywood Sun-Tatler. And,
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
All right.
You might know people that I know down there. I have to talk to you about it offline and see if you know. Yeah.
Well, I want to pop a hidden picture onto the screen and ask you about it. I'm kind of blindsiding you here, so I apologize, but
Okay.
you'll be okay with it. You guys got to meet dolphins.
Nice.
Trish.
I'm very curious about it, and here's you as well.
Yeah.
So that's like meeting another intelligent species. I mean, this is like meeting ET, as far as I'm concerned.
Megan worked at the Dolphin Center in the Keys, so that's what.
That's related to our daughter. She worked with dolphins for a few years.
Down in the Keys, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I know where that is. Yeah.
What was it like? Oh, wait, I don't want to show that one yet.
She loved it.
Yeah. She liked working in the Keys, but then she worked at the Epcot Center in Orlando, part of Disney World, and that experience was not so great. She had to get up at 4:00 in the morning. She had to wear a uniform, and it was kind of drudgery. I mean, she liked working with the animals, the dolphins, and the manatees, but she's like us. She wants to, work on her own and
independent,
freelance, and that's what she's doing. Has her own business.
Awesome. Good for her.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, I got to meet dolphins once. It was so cool. I mean, they're so gentle and so clearly intelligent.
Yeah, and they have like some kind of radar vision. Like if a pregnant woman is in the pool with them, they can see the baby.
They're using sonar. They can see inside your body.
The sonar. Yeah.
You remember the Miami Seaquarium? I got to work down there one summer when I was a kid, young, and I had, I fed animals, cleaned up, mostly clean things, and I was there when they were sheltering a dolphin. Her name was Dolly, and I became enamored of this dolphin. She was a Navy dolphin, and she was retiring there, and she had her own place, and they needed to move her to the East Coast, and it took them a little while to find somebody who would be a foster to her because she could never be totally out of captivity. They tried and tried and tried to rehabilitate her to it, but they couldn't. She was a trained Navy dolphin, and when they brought her around, I got to, go with. And when they got her to her new home and everything. And I used to go to that part of the Florida anyway. My uncle had a boat over there. So I used to go and visit her all the time. I'd call her and she'd come to me. I absolutely love dolphins. They're so smart. And yes, whatever's wrong with you, they see it. They have sonar, they can tell.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Megan's an artist herself, but she was doing things with, that they would put a paintbrush in the dolphin's mouth and they would paint on a little palette, very abstract stuff.
Yep. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I once heard a really cool dolphin story. This lady was smoking a cigarette while looking at this baby dolphin who was looking at her. She breathes in the cigarette, blows the smoke against the glass. And the baby dolphin's looking at her, tilts its head, swims over to its mother, comes back and blows out milk onto the mimicking her.
That's a good story. Yeah.
I just love dolphins. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna pop up this one, Rob, because I'm super curious. I got to. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Why is that not coming up? Hold on, let me pull that picture up real quick because I am very curious about this one. Here we go. Give me just 1 second. There, the crystal skull.
Yeah. That was a great night.
Yeah, you want to talk about that, Trish? That's a famous.
Yeah, Bill Holman and Rob had communicated ever since he'd written his novel, Crystal Skull. So Bill had emailed and said, I'm going to be in nearby town. He was going to be talking at a New Age bookstore. So we invited him to come up for dinner and then invited 13 people to come over and meet Bill and the Crystal Skull. And it was the night before Hurricane Dorian. The hurricane was stalled in between the Bahamas and Florida, and supposedly it's going to become unstalled and hit South Florida. So Bill said, well, let's meditate with the skull and focus on moving the hurricane away from Florida. Unfortunately, we didn't. What we should have said was go out to sea. So it moved away from Florida and slammed into the Abacos, where it stalled for 3 days and just tore apart that part of the Bahamas. But it didn't hit.
Yeah.
So I mean, meditation.
Yeah. So that's the Mitchell Hedges skull, which is a famous one that has been. Story was that the daughter, Mitchell Hedges, was kind of an adventurer. He had written 2-3 adventure novels of his experiences in Central and South America. And the story was that this was discovered by his daughter. Now I can't think of her first name. Can you, Trish?
I remember that story. I can't think of her name.
Yeah,
either.
right. And so the story is that she had climbed this pyramid and had got to the top of it and reached into this hole and found it. Now, there was a question that did the father plant that because it was her birthday and she discovered it on her birthday. And so whether he never said that he had done that, but there was that suspicion that he had planted that, she had discovered it. But either way, there it was, and it's controversial as crystal skulls are, but whether it's ancient or not, but it has a lot of power, and people that
when you sit with this thing,
when you sit with it, you feel the power of this crystal skull. And maybe we blew that hurricane off of Florida because it was coming at us, and it was like a that was at the category 5 one, Trish. Yeah, and so we all focused on that, getting that hurricane away from South Florida. Instead, it destroyed parts of the Bahamas. And
well, I'm interested because I got to meet Max, the crystal skull, with gosh, what was her name? Joanna Parks.
Joanna Parks, I know her. Yeah, right.
Yeah, she came to Topanga and brought the crystal skull, and by a weird coincidence, I ended up meeting a lady who was a huge contactee and had a huge influence on my life. She actually took me out to see UFOs, but it was cool because we each got a little bit of time alone with the crystal skull. And like you said, you can, I don't know about the origins, but you can definitely feel it. And it's so beautiful. And it's big. I mean, it's big.
It's I've seen the pictures of Max.
We saw Max, Rob. We meditated with Max.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Where was that?
Lauderdale.
Okay, yeah, that was at that archaeological center that existed back in the 80s there, and that was Max. That's right, we did. Yeah, I remember that.
Was it the Seminole one? Seminole Indian one? That they were fighting over so much?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah. Supposedly, like, how many? 12, 13? I think I saw that in chat. Someone's talking about. Yeah, here we are. Aren't there 13 crystal skulls documented?
Yeah, that's the story, and they would be reunited at the time when there would be like a transition.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah,
that was a movie.
Yeah, so a psychic told me years ago that that crystal skull, the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, is going to come to you. And this was many years ago, and I thought, well, just because what a psychic says, should I take action? Should I go ahead and reach out to what Martha is her name? I'm not sure, but she lived in Canada, and I thought about it, but I just never did. And so years pass, but it came true. Crystal skull came to me. I'm for one night. There it was, the Mitchell Hedges skull in our house for a night, and we had that group of people there. So.
You guys have had a lot of really cool experiences. Yeah. Getting to meet some really cool people. I'm curious, Trish, like getting to meet Betty Hill.
That was so much fun.
Can you,
She
yeah,
is
can you share that?
I'd love to hear that one. Yep.
She gave a talk at this UFO conference. Chris Rob and I were there taking notes. And afterwards, she sat outside with us and with Bud Hopkins. We all started talking. I believe that she was accompanied by a nurse, an RN, who was very, very sweet woman.
Right, she was, yeah.
Yeah. And so we asked them to come over for dinner the following night. So they did. And we also invited 2 psychics that we knew. Wiley, who's no longer with us, and Rosso, who also is he's also passed. But Rob and Tony had done a book together called The Rainbow Oracle. They were both really good psychics. So we all had questions for Betty. Oh, what was it like? You know, all the kind of stuff that people want to know about. And she got very animated when she talked about it that night. And suddenly she stops, heads for the sliding glass doors, throws them open, disappears outside. And I look at each other and think, huh? Everybody, we go after her, and she's standing in the middle of the parking lot, pointing upward at this light. And again, Rob and I look at each other and think, oh, that's definitely an airplane. And the nurse who was standing there with us, you know, and says, no, they could disguise themselves as anything, which I don't doubt. But the nurse said, Betty, that's an airplane. And just insisted that it wasn't. So anyway, we go back inside, right, Rob? And that was the night we saw. No, that was a different one. Never mind. That was
the Men in Black story. That was a different night. And we had a Man in Black experience in that same location. That was related to Bud Hopkins, actually.
Yeah.
We had gone to a UFO conference in Hollywood, Florida, and Bud was there, and Betty. It was the same conference, actually. And one night we spent with Bud, and one night we spent with Betty. But the one with Bud, he was on a radio show in Miami, and people were calling in and talking about their experiences with having abduction experiences, and one of them struck him as being significant, and he wanted to meet that woman. She lived in Lake Worth, Florida, and we were in Hollywood, but he didn't have a car. He just flown in, and taken a taxi to the conference. And so Trish and I volunteered to drive him up. He's a kind of suspicious guy. He thought we were like with the government or something, and we were spying on him. I said, look, the air conditioning doesn't work in this car. You think, we're agents and we have a bad car? And he said, oh yeah, I guess so. So he got comfortable with us. And so we went up to this, met this couple, and she was really nice. She had the experience, but her husband was kind of a strange guy, big guy, all dressed in black, and he had this gold devil hanging on a chain right in his open shirt, and and Bud, I'm thinking, Trish, do you see this? And Bud is not noticing at all, and I'm thinking that this guy has some kind of control or influencing his wife in some way. But anyhow, he didn't have anything to do with the UFO experience. Bud took her back through the experience. And so 3 grays come into her bedroom, lift her off the bed, and right down the hall and right through the wall outside into the backyard. And it's like a tube, like I don't know if it was a physical tube, but they stand in it and they rise up to the craft. And this was Christmas time, and a time when the National Enquirer was very close by where they lived. And the National Enquirer had a huge Christmas tree, and they had a little train for kids. And it was always an annual spectacle. And it was also happened to be the only newspaper that was writing UFO stories, back then. And so she points at the Christmas tree to the aliens. And so Bud asks, what did they think? And she says, she's hypnotized. They're not impressed, and off she went up into the craft. And so that was our experience with Bud. And I wanted to get out of that place because the husband, I just got bad vibes from that guy. And Bud stayed overnight there. And I said, good luck, I didn't want to stay in that house another hour. But actually, later on, we wanted to see what happened to her. We were more interested in her than him. But they both came to our house, and again, we had a couple of psychics there, and the guy was very uptight and like closed off. He didn't want these psychics peering at him, and so. But we had a great conversation there, and it was late, and suddenly, I see somebody outside on the peering into the sliding glass door. A guy dressed all in black. And so I go over and I open the door, and he runs off, but he could have just disappeared into the night very easily. But instead he ran through the parking lot, which was somewhat eliminated, and he was bent over running. He would go from car to car, and he would look back at me, and he'd run to the next car and look back. And so Trish or somebody called the police. And so and usually, something like some, calling the police in the middle of the night, it takes a long time. It wasn't 5 minutes before there were like 6 cop cars zooming in there searching for this guy. And it turned out that just about a mile away, there was a murder, and they were looking for somebody. So when we called, they thought this might be the person. I don't know if it was, but they never found him.
That's amazing.
Now, you don't know how he got out of the. He must have jumped into the canal.
Yeah, I don't know how he got out of there. Yeah, but it was
station ID.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we need to take a quick station ID break. So hold on just a second. I would like to thank you all for watching The Light Gate. This is episode 26. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. Our wonderful and exciting guests tonight are Rob and Trish MacGregor, authors, podcasters, researchers, and more. Here, let me
experiencers. Yes.
Ticker. I forgot to put up the little ticker. So, yeah, and you can definitely get their links in the description. But we are streaming on several platforms, including United Public Radio Network from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM. Also, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and we're on Roku as well. And we have another wonderful hour to enjoy with our guests. So if you guys have questions, definitely keep them coming. I'm putting little stars next to the ones that you're putting out there. So we will get to them at some point. But I would like to give you guys a chance to talk about some of your books. And this one I like. So wondering if you could talk a little bit about Beyond Strange, the tales of alien encounters and paranormal mysteries.
Yeah, Beyond Strange. That book is a lot of different stories. Some of them are alien related, others are paranormal related, and
now you guys have so many stories of so many different kinds. It's one of the things I love about your books is you explore everything.
Yeah,
we do.
And that book, I think that's the one where we have Susan Yarntorno's story, isn't it, Trish? Yeah, she's the one. She's the woman who was levitated across her room as a child, and she became a veterinarian and then a contactee, and she had no fear of these beings, and the descriptions she had of them are kind of, I guess you'd call the tall ones with long arms, and different types of beings, and because every afternoon she would lay down because she had some illnesses. What is it?
Autoimmune disorder.
Right, and so she had to quit her job as a vet, and she would rest in the afternoon and have these experiences, and they would shake the bed and turn it into waves. And her husband experienced the same the same thing with the way the mattress moving in waves, and so they were showing her things and leading her into these out-of-body experiences to other dimensions, other places, and she felt that it wasn't really out of body, it was like bilocation, and that she appeared physical in these places.
Oh, wow.
And she was getting good at it, and then she had a very experience that changed everything. She was out, and suddenly she was in this house, and she felt herself dropping down through the floor of the house, and there was a child in there that was being held, being captive there, and she freed this child, and as a result of that, she had these demons, the creatures that were holding this child, coming after her, and it just it went on for years. I mean, we had her like 3 times on the Mystico Underground, and she's recorded these beings, and it's pretty scary. I mean, a lot of people say they don't want to listen to those particular shows because they are scary, and but she has come out of it now. I just talked to her recently, and she's very involved in Cosmic Center in Sarasota, and so she's working with these more elevated people, and they still are around her, she says, but she can just ignore them and just like turn away, and they go away, but they're still hovering around her, a couple of them.
She laughs.
She's a medium, a full-on medium.
Yeah, right. And
yeah.
Is that a
That
cat?
means she's very, very, very psychic, which does not surprise me at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you just pick up a black cat?
That's
We have a
Trix.
black
Trix. Well, Trix is kind of almost like a mantled. She looks like Batcat. I'm Batcat. She has a Batcat, mantle over her face. And she's got a little white mouth and chin and a little white, and
she will not be ignored. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm also curious about ghosts and some of your research into ghosts, and you mentioned it. And have you guys ever experienced any personally ghostly activity?
Ghost? Yes.
I have. I don't think I have. Have you, Trish?
Casadega.
Oh yeah, of course. How could I forget Casadega? Casadega. Casadega is a spiritualist community, and they have
a haunted hotel.
An old Mediterranean hotel built in 1922. And one winter, we stayed at that hotel, and we're the only ones in the hotel. I mean, it's a town where people go for readings with the mediums, and I guess I think it was Bike Week. In Daytona. So tourists were in Daytona for the Bike Week, and not in Casadega. We were the only ones there, and our daughter was about a year old, and we were in a room on the second floor, and we're up pretty late reading, and our daughter was sleeping, and we hear these heavy boots, steps coming down the hall, and just a thud coming closer and closer. And
I freaked out. I ran over to the pickup and I started opening the window to look for a fire escape. That's
I mean, there was a very evil sense about what was coming our way, and it came and stopped right in front of our door, and the door handle moved. Yeah, then we pushed the we were both freaking out. We pushed the dresser in front of that door. We did not want whatever was out there to come into the house, to come into that room, and after a while it moved away.
No, it rattled the handle first, Rob.
Yeah, it rattled the handle, and it freaked us out. I mean, it was and we've stayed there other times, not had that any experiences like that at all. But and they always say, "Oh, the ghosts are friendly," and no, that one was not friendly at all. But we had another experience in Dominican Republic that was more interesting. With we got this. We looked online for a place to stay right on the ocean, and we found a very reasonably priced hotel, and it was kind of U-shaped with a nice. We thought it was a garden in the middle and the beach, and we got a room right in the back, so looking out over the garden to the beach. But it wasn't a garden; it was a cemetery. It was a graveyard, and so the graves are very close to our room. The graves begin, and our daughter, who was, I don't know, she's 10, 11, 12. She did not like that room, so we moved to the side. But before then, Trish and I were curious about it. We said the gravedigger was in there, and the gate was open. So normally the gate was locked. So we walked in there, and so the gravedigger came over to us, and he says, I got to show you something. You want to see something? And he says, so here the sand keeps coming in and getting higher, and so there are graves on top of coffins on top of coffins, and he was digging to bury someone new and came upon an older coffin he wanted to show us. But Trish and I said, that's all right, we don't have to see that. But what we did see, the reason I was there, I used to be a windsurfer, and that is a very good place for windsurfing. And what I saw very close to below our room was a grave marker that was the top half of a windsurfer. And I thought all these graves were old. And when we got in there, I went up to that one, and it was only 4 months old that that person had died. And so that kind of surprised us. So anyhow, our daughter didn't like it. So we go to the side, and actually the room that we had, the door was actually.
Rob, you took something from that grave.
Oh yeah, okay. I picked up a rock, which was a mistake from the graveyard. Put it in my pocket, and we moved to the side. And actually, the door was closer to the graveyard than our other place. But that one looked right on it. This one looked straight out to the ocean, so the front of it. So Megan was okay with that. But that night, and there was nobody else in that whole side building there. That night we went to bed pretty early, and we're laying there just starting to fall asleep, and I hear this thud, boom, 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 3. It was like a wrecking ball hitting the side of the building. It was that loud. There were 3 of them, then 3 more, a break, and then 3 more. And at that point, I sat up, Trish sat up simultaneously, and I said, I thought I was dreaming that, but it was like a different kind of dream. It was like a waking dream, and Trish said she heard it too, but this was totally different. It was very energizing and uplifting. It really, and then the television came on. We never turned on the television. It was just came on, but it was a very uplifting feeling. And so we thought that maybe there was an earthquake or something. We checked the next day, and there was nothing like that. And but anyhow, the next morning we were leaving. Anyhow, I took the rock and threw it back into the graveyard. But maybe that's what they wanted, the rock back. I don't know. But the guy said that there are ghosts and they're friendly, and that was a friendly experience, and it just felt very uplifting.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, I said we didn't have any ghost experiences. Yeah, we've had ghost experiences.
Yeah, when you're in this field researching, it's fun. And it's one thing to talk to people about it, but when you experience it yourself.
Yeah. How about you? Have you had ghost experiences?
I have.
Okay.
I think one of the most amazing was when I went to see a physical medium who could do what's called table tipping.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was really cool. And I was watching them do it. It was just a little card table. And I'm naturally skeptical. So I'm looking at it thinking, oh, they're doing it.
With their knees or something, yeah.
But then, it was my turn. And there's 4 of us. And I'm like, wow, this table is really moving. And I asked, I'm a researcher. Would you mind if you did it with just the medium? And they said, sure, of course. And just her and I put our hands on the table. And I watched her, and she was lightly touching the top of the table. The table went right up. I asked her, would you mind doing it with one hand? Sure. And it went right up. And I'm like, could you just put one finger on it? And up it went. And then I finally did it all by myself. And I couldn't get it to move up, but it shook. And of course, I examined the table for any devices of any kind.
Yeah. Where was that?
That was in Woodland Hills at a condominium complex.
Okay.
She quit doing it because she started to have weird events. There was a clicking sound following her around.
Yeah.
There was a mysterious fire in the kitchen. And I was driving home because I went back several times, and something hit my car on the road and nearly pushed it off the road. And I'm telling you, that was related to that. I know it.
Yeah.
My brother said, oh, you probably just hit a patch of oil. I'm like, no. Something hit the car and almost knocked me off the road. It was a little scary.
Yeah.
So like you said, when you're doing stuff like that, you have to be careful what you're bringing in.
Yeah.
But I did notice that the table would move differently for each spirit that was called in, whether it was someone's grandma or brother or whatever. It was very cool. She was really good at it.
Oh, wow. Can we talk a little bit about aliens in the backyard? Or
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that book started when we were contacted by a man who had an experience that, and a lot of synchronicity is related. It was a synchronicity, in fact, that got him to contact us. So the name we use is Charles Fontaine, but that's not his name. He's a aeronautical engineer in Montreal and had no interest in UFO. Oh, he thought if there were any, the only UFOs he was aware of were in Hollywood movies. He didn't believe them that at all until he had this experience. So the experience actually didn't last a very long time. He usually got up every morning at about 5 o'clock, and he lived about 45 minutes in a small village, about 45 minutes outside of Montreal, and went to work. So it took him a while to get to work. He got up early, and so on this day, he opened the door for his little dog Spot to go out, but on this day, Spot wouldn't go outside. And so he pushed him with his foot to push him out. And then he looked, and in the field, there's a farmer's field behind his house. There's these beams of light coming down. He counted 9 of them, and there was this swirling energy inside these beams, and it looked like it was going up from the earth, swirling up. It was very beautiful. He was just standing there watching it, and for about 10 minutes or so, but it was starting to move closer. So he went in and woke up his wife. He wanted her to see this too, and she came out and said, "That's something I told you about the other day I saw, and you just ignored me. You don't listen to me." Wow. Now you see it yourself. And so suddenly there's a craft that comes. I don't know if the beams kept coming, but then a craft came vertical, a saucer-shaped craft, vertical, between this weeping willow tree and the house, coming right towards them.
Yeah.
And there's a beam of light, a gold beam shining down on Spot. And so Charles reaches down to pick up Spot, and the next thing he knows, he's taking a shower, and he doesn't know what happened. And how he got in the shower, and his wife is in bed, sound asleep, and he's very confused, and he goes to work, and he closes his office door and just breaks down crying, because nothing like this made any sense to him. He had never had any experience like this, and he just couldn't comprehend it. Is kind of a religious person too, and he's so it was affecting his whole life. But after he came home, he just, very like having a nervous breakdown basically. But he wanted to investigate this experience, so he goes to the next door neighbor who had a walkaways because the houses weren't very close together, but that house was also on that field. So he knocks on the door, and he said, "This morning, did you see anything in the field?" Because they got up very early too. And the guy, the husband, he shakes his head. But the woman, she hears him and she said, "Charles, you saw a UFO, didn't you? I know you saw a UFO." And he's startled. He says, "I don't know if I saw what I saw." And she says, "I know you saw a UFO." And he says, "How do you know that?" And she says, my cousin, he's a weirdo. And I haven't had much contact with him, but 2 weeks ago he called and said, "Watch in the morning, you're going to see a UFO in your backyard." And I didn't see it, but you did, and so, yeah. So he ends up talking. He goes over to the farmer first, and also talks to him. The farmer didn't see anything either, but. So he contacts the cousin, the neighbor's cousin, who's a medium, and gets in contact with him, and and Charles is still very upset, and the guy says, "Just calm down. Those are good beings. They weren't out to harm you," and he said, "How do you know that?" He says, "Because my light beings told me so." And so, but this is all new to Charles. And the guy said, the man is using all kinds of spiritual language that I didn't understand what he was talking about, and I just wanted to get away from him. And so this is something totally new for him. So, but he starts doing some research. He goes to Barnes and Noble, and he picks up a book and is looking at it, and it's a book on synchronicity. And he buys it, and it's our book. And then he looks us up online, and what happens when he finds us is he sees a picture of a UFO over a field with beams of light coming down to the field, and he said he instantly knew, I got to contact these people, and that's how he got a hold of us. And the reason he got that's the book he got, and there's a French edition, so he bought the French edition. His English isn't the greatest, but he told us that the number of synchronicities he was having, he didn't even know that term until he looked at the book.
Wow.
And he said that family next door, everywhere he went, he would see them. He was like at a restaurant 17 miles away, and there they were. It's just like your story that seeing what you said earlier, where your neighbor shows up camping next to you, and it happened over and over. And he was having trouble sleeping, so he went to a pharmacy, and it wasn't real close to his house or anything. And he asked the woman there, can you recommend something to help me sleep? And she said, let me talk to the pharmacist. And she went over to talk to him. And then the pharmacist came over and looked at him and says, where did it happen, inside or outside? And he says, what? Your experience was it? He had never seen this pharmacist before at all. And but the pharmacist does a reading on him and knows that he's had a UFO experience, and he did recommend something to help him sleep. But then he also gave him a name of a psychologist, a friend of his in Montreal, who is very into UFOs, who he met. So he had a whole string of synchronicities happening. And so
now you want to know what's really strange with this. We published this whole story in 9 different installments on our blog.
Wow.
And by the second time, we realized we were being visited by every acronym agency, FBI, DEA, you name it, they came on. In fact, we even got the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on our site for 8 hours one day, like they had assigned somebody.
Yeah, they must have assigned somebody to, because they were on 8 hours on our site. And Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I told Charles about this, and I said I can just see these guys on horseback chasing UFOs. And he says, no, they don't ride horses. They're like the FBI, the U.S. FBI.
Wow.
But, so that was interesting. And then we decided to try something else. We Charles, I said he was kind of religious. He was Catholic, and he would go to these different churches and talk to the priests, and the priests would say, "Get out of here! They don't want to talk about UFOs at all."
No.
And so he went to one though. He went to one though, and he asked if he could have some holy water. And there was a woman there who worked in the church. And she said, "Sir, sure, help yourself." I think that was after the priest told him to go away, and so he took this holy water and sprinkled around his property, around his house. And, because he was sleeping in the basement with a baseball bat next to him, and he was very, very frightened every night. And so Trish says, "Can you send us some of that holy water? We're going to Casadega and we'll give it to a psychic we know who is good at," what is it called that she does? Trish?
Clearing.
Kathy?
Kathy, yeah. She's a psychometrist, so she can hold things and pick up. So we wanted her to do a reading on Charles through the holy water in this tube. And so she's also a nurse, and when she got it, she thought, "Oh, they gave me some pee, urine sample." That was her first impression of it. but then she picked up about him and about these beings, and
I said, Kathy, why have these beings done this to him? She said, they're having fun. This is what they do for amusement.
which was kind of a strange thing that.
No.
I
You
don't
know
know.
something funny that I learned over the years? I'm a nurse. Okay, I'm retired a long time ago. Most of us have the ability to do psychometry, and those of us that are very good at it usually end up in the ER because we're good at triage, and it's just
That's
weird
what-
to me. You know,
Yeah. But have you heard of any cases where aliens would do something to somebody just for entertainment?
no,
I
no, there's
never-
absolute purpose. Absolute purpose. Now I will tell you this, okay? They have weird senses of humor. It's I can't even explain it. I've told Preston a million times they are almost sardonic at times, okay?
Yeah.
And they'll catch you on off guard, unaware, and it's just their way of trying to loosen you up, trying to make you realize that they're not trying to hurt you. They're having fun with you. That's the
And
whole-
I think they can use screen memories too for covering up what they're doing, because we have a story in our book Aliens in the Backyard about these aliens that abducted this guy, and they played a board game with him. They played Monopoly with him, and I've never heard of aliens playing any board games with people, but it could have been that maybe didn't happen at all. He said the street names in the board game were really strange, but it could have been just kind of a cover for that a screen memory that he had that wasn't
Might have been.
happening to him at all.
Yeah, there's a game. It's a French game. It's called Milborn, and I had it when I was a kid, and I did take it on board with me a couple of times to see if they'd play it with me, and
Really?
it fascinated the crud out of them because it's not a game that you can really cheat at. Okay, it's just all in the cards and how you deal them, and you have to have really good sleight of hand to mess with this. And it just fascinated them. They actually started laughing. It was so funny to watch them playing this game with me, and they do like to. They love to do fun things. They really
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe they were
Breaks
just-
up the stress. Trust me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. Well, I'd like to bring on a couple of questions because we're now at our last half hour, and
Okay.
we always like to interact with the wonderful folks in chat. And here's an interesting question from Foreshore, who is asking, do you think aliens are the same as angels?
I've never seen an angel, so I don't know. I've never seen aliens. Who knows?
That's a possibility that higher developed beings could be the same as angels, because angels might be a religious interpretation, and you look back in biblical history of UFOs and aliens. So yeah, definitely it could.
That's kind of how I feel too, because there are accounts of angels saying, "Do not be afraid, have no fear, no harm will come to you."
Right.
Well, that sounds a lot like ETs.
Yeah.
And when you see a glowing being come into your room and perhaps it heals you,
Yeah.
if you don't have that mindset, that worldview, which encompasses ETs,
Right.
your first go-to might be angel,
Mhm.
or for that matter, demonic. And there are people who feel like that is the explanation. I don't. But yeah, I think that there's probably a little bit of a bleed through in some of these cases where it can go either way.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. Hard to say. What do you say, Dolly?
Yeah.
We tend to, okay, there's a thing called pareidolia, and we see things that are not there. We have already preconceived ideas, we have memories, we have images all up in our mind, and we will plant them when we don't understand. And so if you see an entity and it's glowing or whatever, and you're very religious and you say angel, okay? Or if you see one and you're not quite sure, it's very hidden, and you might go to the darker side of what you know. And it's emotional pareidolia. It is our mind trying to explain. It's like in your eyesight. If you have a blind spot or if you have something in your eye that's blocking your vision, your brain will fill it in so that you see the whole picture.
Well, we all see the world through our own belief system.
Exactly. And pareidolia is very personal, yes. And we're just filling things in. That's why I tell people, be your own best researcher when you see things that you don't understand. Make sure you know where you are, what time of day it is, what's going on. Look around you, mark time, mark what you're seeing, memorize every little detail you can, shine a light on it, and make it that your memory. And that way, when you have time afterwards, after it's over with, then you write it down, and then you seriously discuss it with yourself. What did I just see? And argue with yourself about it. And the best way I can tell you about researching what you know or what you've just experienced is you go through everything that it cannot be until you're left with one thing. That's usually your answer. So that's what you do.
Well, I want to bring up another question, which actually I kind of want to answer. Also from Foreshores, how often do aliens talk about personal stuff in your life? And that does absolutely come up, because I can think of 3 cases right off the bat where one guy was told, this is the girlfriend you're going to meet, and this will be your son's best friend. And another guy was told, you're going to be moving into this house, showed him the house. And another lady was told, you are going to break up with your boyfriend. It's not the right relationship for you. I mean, I've got a lot of cases where they talk about people's personal stuff. In fact, the very first case I had of a gray visiting a lady who was the daughter of the person I worked with, the gray told her, you're going to get a raise at work, which turned out to be true. So, yeah.
Well, Holly, did they tell you about Preston before you met him? Did they tell you about Preston before you met him?
I had my own precog going on, and I knew that I would meet somebody like him my whole life. I just didn't know when, where, who, what, where, when, and how. And then when Talata told me about Preston, said look him up, and I brought up his YouTube, and then I went to this video, I was gobsmacked because I was like, And then the more I found out about him, the more I realized things started lining up. It's just really weird. We have too many synchronicities, but going on, And then
have you guys heard anything like that where Ichi's talk about personal stuff?
Me?
Yes. Trish?
To us, you mean?
Yeah.
Personally?
I mean, that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think, to some of the cases we've looked at, and, other, people, I'm trying to think. I mean, Connie
Cannon had a lot of things that happened.
Oh, Connie, yeah.
We mentioned she and her son were abducted one night when they were on I-75 headed down to St. Augustine. They ended up on a military base with 3 aliens standing nearby, and some guy with a gun.
Yeah, there was a helicopter. They're in the process of moving to St. Augustine from North Carolina, I think, and they ended
Georgia.
up on this. What? From Georgia? Yeah. They ended up suddenly found themselves on this grid of roads that they didn't know where they were, and suddenly the next thing they know, Connie and her son are on their knees on a tarmac. There's helicopters and alien crafts, a couple alien crafts, and military people with big weapons, and several grays. And the military guy, the grays seem to be very relaxed and actually ignoring them, where the military guy is aiming the weapon at her and saying, if you ever say anything to anyone, you are going to, and then that's then that's all she heard. And then she finds herself driving again in the car, and she comes to this like 7-Eleven type store, and she goes in and asks, "Where am I? I'm lost." And she said, "Well, you're in is it Warner Air Force Base?"
Warner Air Force Base, I think.
Yeah, Air Force Base. And how do I get out of here? And the woman, the clerk says, "Well, the same way you got in here, through the gate." And she said, "No, I didn't come through any gate."
Oh, wow.
And so she wasn't going to argue with them, and just asked, "Where's the gate?" and got out of there. But Connie, we were in contact with her for years, and she had so many experiences. I don't know why we've never written a book about her, but she.
Well, now, yeah, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, she's died now. But as far as for us, I don't feel that I have ever been abducted, and I don't think Trish has ever been abducted that we know of. We maybe what?
Speak for yourself. You can't speak for me. Whether or not
okay, well, all right. Yeah, you can be abducted. I don't have any memory of being abducted.
And you were watching all those things in the sky.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I could. It certainly could have happened to me then. And yeah. And I also remember an experience. When I was about 18, 19, when I was all alone on this hill above a river, and I thought, oh, this would be a great time for having a UFO encounter. And that's all I thought. And to my knowledge, nothing happened, but I don't know. But that memory has always been there, that experience, but I don't have any recollection of anything at all happening. I didn't see anything so.
Well, I got a few more questions I'd love to bring up. And this one is not so much a question, but a comment, which is what we've been talking about. Tool says, it is much bigger than just visitors from another planet. And that's what I love about your guys' research. It's synchronicities. It's all kinds of paranormal events.
Right. Yeah, it's not nuts and bolts. That's the one thing the UFOs are not, is just flying like we try to do, to fly to the moon or to Mars. I don't think that's what's happening. It's something completely different beyond our understanding. I think Dolly could say a lot more about that than I could.
There's definitely a spiritual aspect to it, for sure. Yes. Deserves more attention.
Yeah.
Okay. There's more to us than meets the eye. We're all connected, and there's a lot going on. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We just have like a few more questions, and then we've got still a good 10, 15 minutes of the show. And here's another from Foreshore, which I would love to touch on. Do ETs ever give mathematical equations to contactees? Yes. Big yes. That happened to Stan Romanek, whose case is definitely controversial, but I think if you look into it, there's legitimacy to it. And I've heard that from many other contactees. And he says, or engineering solutions. Yes. Yeah, I know contactees who have filed for patents for free energy motors, and we'll take you to the engineering, and they'll show you all kinds of stuff. And people
is that where Tesla got his idea?
Tesla? You mean like Elon Musk, or the Tesla, real Tesla? Yeah, he had 81 or 82 things that he had wanted patents on, and when he passed away, the government walked in and took all of them.
Yeah, he said he was in contact with ETs.
Yes.
He said as much.
He was taught by them.
Yeah, no, I believe that about Tesla. What about Elon Musk?
Say again?
Elon Musk?
I think Elon Musk is incredibly intelligent, and he is very aware. And he knows more than he says he does. Yeah.
All right. Well, here's a question about the Bermuda Triangle from Janice Connett. she's asking, I think this is what it's about because that's when we were talking about it. Do
Yeah.
you think there's a magnetic force or supercrystal under the sea that creates that phenomenon?
No.
Oh, that's like a theory that's been around for decades. That Atlantis was destroyed by a crystal that blew up and is like some kind of like a nuclear, like the power of a nuclear weapon. You're shaking your head.
No. No, we've been on this
Theory,
planet a
I've
long
heard
time.
that theory.
In different iterations of time. Every 12,000 years, we kind of change the guard, okay? And humans go away for a while and then they come back. And way back, there were a couple of iterations of humans here who developed a nuclear weapon as well and actually exploded them in the past, way past. I think that most people need to realize is that all the monuments that you see now, the pyramids, all of them, and they're configuring for Orion or for Sirius or for the Pleiades, they left messages in these monuments, and they're pointing toward the 12,000-year cycle. And they were trying very hard for us to understand that we had things we needed to do. And I think it's a little confused now. I think people are not really aware of the truth, total truth. And
of our history is there's a lot more history than we're aware of.
Exactly.
Prehistory.
All right. Well, here is another question from Neural Channels, and thank you very much for the super chat donation. And he is asking, did any of you find that the lifetime of paranormal experiences, that it can be a stepping stone to connect to ET? I think it's part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all related.
Yeah, ET's asking everybody to use their abilities. You have a pineal gland. It's innately built into your body and your whole system, and we're supposed to be aware and awake with it. And when that happens, when you start using your abilities, you realize that it's all interconnected. We're all entities. We all live, we're not part of this body, really. We're just indwelling here. We live forever. We've had many experiences, all of us. We're here for a reason. I mean, everything is interconnected. People who pass away and don't leave this planetary influence are stuck here sometimes. We can help them. We can speak to our family who have moved on. We have that ability. Heck, the Japanese call it Shinto. It is a religion to them where they communicate with their loved ones and ask them for help. And they do in this religion, they know. I mean, there's Buddha, there's, Krishna, there's Shiva. There's all kinds of things that point you in the direction of it's all related to one another, all of it. And ETs are part of that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wanted to add was sometimes people who have ET experiences develop paranormal abilities. We found that
absolutely
abductees became planetary empaths. They could feel precognitively before a disaster of some kind. Would get physically ill. They couldn't yet identify where the thing would occur, but they knew if it was going to be an earthquake or a volcano. Or
yes, you're sensing the energy changing. Absolutely. Everybody's actually capable of doing that. Some are just more tuned into it and really do feel it. Yes.
Yeah, I think ETs are trying to wake us up to that. All right, we have time for one more question, and this one is from Wrong Planet, who asks, how can a regular unimportant guy try to seek contact to really know it's real? Even though my belief is that aliens do exist and the world is probably more Star Trek-ish than one would think. There's no such thing as a regular unimportant guy. We're all important.
That's right.
That's the thing too about contact. Yeah, contact. They don't seem to go. Definitely maybe they do go to the power brokers of the world, but almost anybody can have contact. It doesn't seem to matter who you are and your position in the world. Put it that way.
Nobody's better than anybody else. That's exactly what they are. That's right.
Dolly, I have a question for you.
Right.
In your experiences, have you ever seen any alien writing, like on a wall or?
Most craft do not have symbols on them. If they do, the pilot, the indwelt being, the ship is alive, will show people. It'll array them. In other words, they'll come up and they'll put it up for you to see. They're trying to get your attention, or they're maybe going to express an image to you. It's not a permanent thing. They'll just do it because we use language. Symbols are important to us. There are some symbols that we use on craft, and they're mostly, it's in the language of the tall grays. I'll teach you 2 words real quick. Atriar, that means I'm ready, okay? At ut, me, you, at ut. Atriar, at-riar, I am ready, okay? It is a written language, and I use symbols when I'm shorthanding, because I do have a pad. And if I'm reminding myself of something, because I've got about 20 different things going on at the same time when I fly, and I'll, like any pilot, write it down, okay, the way I'm going to do this, and then I broadcast. Betty Hill had a bunch of symbols, and I did translate them for her. I never heard back from her family about it, but yeah, I did it. Yes, they do write things sometimes.
Yeah, we had one of our people that we did some research on and helped out. He had that experience when he was abducted, that seeing when he was
What are you talking about?
The guy who's lived with us for a little while, that I took him up to Dr. Berthold Schwartz to be. Don was his name, right?
That's right, Don.
Yeah, okay. Don. So he had a kind of interesting experience being abducted. He and a friend were going to a Halloween party, and they were in costumes. He was dressed as a pirate, I think, and his friend, I can't remember what costume he wore. So they end up, their car, the engine just dies in their car as they're driving, and they're taken out, and they find themselves standing in a line of people going into this craft, and everybody seems to be, just totally unaware of what's going on, and just, standing there numb. And, they're standing there in their Halloween costumes going aboard a craft.
That's happened.
Nobody seemed to be impressed by that, by the way. And but he said during Dr. Schwartz and his when he went through the experience, the guy really broke down when he had crying as he was remembering all this, and he saw some writing symbols on a wall that he wrote down. I had it for a long time, but I lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I'd like to see that. You got to find that. I would love to see that, actually. Yeah. That's very cool.
Well, we're in our last 5 minutes, so I want to give you guys a chance to talk about your amazing podcast, The Mystical Underground, and all your amazing books, or anything else you've got coming up. I'm trying to put some of your books up here on the screen so that people can see, because there's so many. You guys really impressive. But yeah, here's a few minutes to just kind of self-promote yourself.
Yeah. How can people get in contact with you? No kidding.
Write us through themysticalunderground.com. That's our blog website. There's a contact form. Also on, I don't know if you can contact us through YouTube, but we now have a YouTube channel.
Cool. What's it called?
That's a question.
And if people,
it's called the Mystical Underground.
Okay, that's very cool.
So if people want to know more about the Mystical Underground, we also actually have a book called The Shift: Reports from the Mystical Underground.
Right.
Nice.
It came out a few months ago.
Now, are you on Amazon? Can we find all your books through Amazon?
Yeah, you can. Okay. Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Look at that, you guys. And a whole library for.
Yeah, right.
It just goes on and on and on.
It's
Oh, feeling
really
is
impressive.
I know. Fevered. Okay.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah. All right. Oh,
Sorry, there's even a novel called By Strangeness that I
Yeah.
wrote.
Yeah.
It's on the fictional island of Tango Key. You might want to look at that one.
Okay.
You'll see
I will.
similarities.
I've been there
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. When I grew up, we to relax, we all went to the Keys all the time. Okay. We had a camper and we just went. And I've been all over the Keys, everywhere. And I've been to the Caribbean, and we used to go to Bahamas, Bahia Honda days and stuff like Gumbe Summer festivals, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well,
And,
unfortunately, we do have to wrap it up. So I just
Is
really
it
want
time?
to
Oh yeah.
thank you guys.
I
So
know.
much fun.
So much fun. And
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Namaste. and
Thanks
the
a
other
lot.
people.
Yeah, we're going to probably be up in your direction around Christmas time. Maybe we'll get together.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cough.
That
Okay.
would be really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Well, I would like to say to everybody, thank you very much for coming, Rob and Trish. We're glad that you showed up, and we're going to do this again, please. And
Sounds good.
the Light Gate welcomes everybody who showed up, and we'll see you next Monday night. It's a wonderful time of year. Go see the leaves. We were lucky enough to come to you from the beautiful city of New Orleans on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM.
Yes.
Namaste.
Check out the Mystical Underground too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoyed it. Bye now.
Mwah.